Yeah, g'day. Welcome to another video on the Ep3. In this video, I'm going to be working on the adapter between the gearbox and the electric motor. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw the coupler. So that's the little piece of machinery that joins the shaft of the electric motor to the flywheel and the clutch assembly. Okay, so here we are going to draw the coupler. Righto, this is the coupler all finished. So this end is where the electric motor shaft goes into here. It's got a 1/4 inch keyway. There's a couple of 6mm grub screws. And then at the other end, so that goes on the electric motor, and then on this end we screw on the flywheel bolts onto there. They're 10 by 1mm bolt holes, and the pivot bearing goes in the middle there, or the whatever you call it, the bearing that the drive shaft from the gearbox goes in there. That bearing sits in there. The main thing is the distance between the engine block, that's the engine face, and this other plane here, which is the motor face, the electric motor face. So by making this coupler first, we find that distance out, and then when we move forward to making the adapter, then that's the critical measurement. Okay, now we've got that drawn up and finalized, and that gives us the dimension, the main dimension between the face of the gearbox flange and the face of the electric motor, which is 58.5mm. So knowing that now we go on to tracing the gearbox, the front of the gearbox flange, in relation to the center point of the drive shaft, and then then we move forward with joining the actual adapter. So what I'm going to do here is I've put some engineer's blue on the middle of the drive shaft, and I think it's exactly the same height as this, so hopefully I'll get that spot in the middle. And then I'm just going to trace around the edge with a pencil, go in there, but these are threaded holes, so I've just put a bit of blue on the end of the machine screw, and then I'm just going to screw that down till it hits the paper, and then I'll know where it is. That's the idea anyway. I'll get on and do that. Okay, so this is it here. I've just gone around and kind of tidied up the spots. Had to do a bit of a cross-reference with measurements of the bell housing to make sure that I've got my middle spot there. yeah, so it's looking good. So now I'll just scan that. Hopefully I can go into town and find a scanner that's big enough, and then get it into the computer. Crack on. Okay, here we are in the drawing program. The first thing we're going to do is bring in the image of the bell housing flange and then size it up to scale, and then we can start drawing on top of that. Okay, after putting that, the scanned picture and scaling it in the computer there, just found out that the location of the holes for the gearbox flange is not accurate enough off of that scan, off of that tracing. So what I'm gonna do is I've turned up these little spike things. So that's just in the middle there. Got some other spikes in these, all on these 6 points. These are just bolts. So they just turn down, so then I can get a pretty accurate point as to the center of all these points, and then transfer that onto my sketch, and then it'll make it easier in the computer to get it bang on. So as you can see here, I've just measured between all the various, those 6 points and the center point, because that's the reference that we need to be bang on. Okay, I have gone ahead and drawn the, this is the plate that will attach to the gearbox. So if I turn on, that's the, oh God, oh dear. Oh, it's because I extruded it out the other way. But you can see that that's where I got the initial shape from. And then when I'll just hide that again. Then what I did was, I'll just show you the drawing. So that's the sketch with all the various points for these holes, and then I sort of simplified the outside line around there, and then this inside circle was just rudimentary at this stage. That'll probably change later. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to export this as a DXF, and I'll get the guys to cut it on their computer just out of a bit of maybe 2 mil, because I might be able to use that as like a gasket. Yeah, so I'll get them to cut that out, and then we can use it to test the fit of that onto the gearbox. Okay, I've got the piece of machined 2mm aluminium and put it on the gearbox here. Everything seemed to line up pretty well. The 2 top holes are good. Everything bolts on. I've tried this one, that's good. Just lacking a few bolts at the moment. The only hole, the center is good with everything. And the only hole that needs moving is this one here. Just needs to go. It's probably the measurement I took from this hole to this hole. And that measurement needs to grow by about 2.5 millimeters. But that's about it. So I'm going to do that, and then I think I'll cut another one just to be sure before I go on. See, everything revolves around this connection. And then the pieces to the mounts, I'm still trying to figure that out, because this distance in here is pretty small to get a piece of, I don't know, square tube or something out here. So was keen to bolt it onto the side of the new flange bit, but just out of room with these 2 bolts here. So may have to bring it out here and then have some sort of, I could actually use these bolts and make another plate that these bolts go through. Still trying to work that out in my head and on the paper or on the computer. So yeah, more drawing. Righto, I've gone ahead and drawn some more. This is the whole thing pretty much. I've changed the there was that hole I moved, so I've done that, and they're going to cut out another test piece just to make sure before we go any further. Just got the second one back from the cutters, and this time she's bang on. So all the geometry is just a-okay, good to go forward. So this is as far as I'm going to go, to be honest. And then I'm going to go and talk to the machinists, and we will talk about things like what if we need to make any changes to make it easier to machine in the way of fillets down these, fillets in the internal corners, external, blah blah blah. So that's the flange that bolts onto the gearbox at the back there. This front bit here is where the electric motor bolts on to these 4 holes here. That's the big hole in the middle fits into the electric motor, fits into that. There's an extruded piece that goes in that circle. That's dead center. On the top here, there are 3 holes. These 3 holes are for attaching the cooling plate that goes out over the top of the electric motor, and the controller bolts onto that. So that bolts onto that flat piece there, and then this hole here, this is a 12mm hole, and I will make a lifting eye that you can screw into that to basically lift the whole gearbox motor assembly out and in the car. To make that easy, these other 2 pads on this side over here and this side over here, these are for the engine mount. So you can imagine I will make a steel, UHS frame that goes, there'll be a flat bar that'll bolt onto there, and then the tube will be welded to that, and that'll come forward and it'll go to the original engine mount. So there's one on each side that goes to the original engine mounts in the vehicle. That's what those 2 square flats are, and that's about it really. I mean, it took a bit to get to this stage. I haven't cut out the back of those the engine mount points as I did at the top here, because basically it wasn't removing much material, and I think for ease of machining, I'll just leave, for the extra little bit of weight that you save, I'll just leave it there for machining purposes. So at this stage, that is it. I just modeled these cap screws here, so then I knew how much clearance I had. You can imagine the flat bar, it goes as 35mm wide by 5mm, so that goes on there. So you'll be able to bolt it onto the gearbox first, of course, and then the motor, and then last of all you can bolt on the engine mount piece. Yep, that's why I've modelled those, just temporary like. So that's where we're at the moment, turning point. So I think I might leave it there on this one. Just realised I need to make my videos a little shorter and more of them. I've got about 4
sitting in the computer at the moment, half finished. I'm going to try and keep them a little short and sweet. So I'm going to leave that one there on this episode. Thanks very much for watching. Do all the usual subscribe and squiggly wiggly thumbs up and all that sort of caper. Leave a comment, just let me know how I'm going and so on. I'd love to hear a comment from you. Thanks very much. Until next time.